see if this works. So it doesn't come as a surprise that we're at Rosh Chodesh. So in the Amidah, we'll be including Ya'aleh V'Yavo, and I'll give you notice when we get there, but we'll be doing the insertion for the new month. And then tomorrow we have an extra wonderful Shabbat Rosh Chodesh service. So with that, let's start davening. Thanks to everyone who's here. And I'm going to check. First of all, by the way, thank you, Glenn, and thank you, Carol, for joining us. We're counting you. Everyone here is grateful. You're making minyan tonight, and we need one more. So I put one call in, but if either of you have a second person at home, you can put in the chat area. They have to be in the same room with you, and hopefully, oh wait, we got one more coming in, so we're good. But thanks for being here because you're still making a minyan. Let's do some davening. Okay, let's start with page 10, and we'll just start davening straight through. I'm going to daven from down here so I can feel like I'm part of the kahal. Yedid nefesh avarachaman mishohavdach eretzonah yarutz avdach kemo hayal Yishtachave mul hadara Yerav lo yedidutach minofetzu bechol ta'am. Last verse. Igalena usros chaviv alayet sukat shelomach. Ta'ir eretz mikvodach nagila v'nismecha bach maher ahuv kiva moed v'choneni kimei olam. Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da. L'chu niranena L'Adonai, Naria litzor yishenu, Nekadma fanav, B'tohoda, Bizmirot Naria lo, Gehel Gadol Adonai. Arba'im shana akut bedor v'omar am tohe levavhem v'hem lo yadu dirachai asher nishbati v'yapi im yivon el menuchati. For the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat from pages 13 through until Anam B'Koach, which is going to be around page 20 or 19. For the next 6 pages, I ask you to chant whatever part of the Psalms works for you to welcoming the spirit of Shabbat. Chant the Hebrew. You could just you could randomly open up to one Psalm and think about the English. You could read the sides of the pages. You'll hear me periodically punctuate just the final line, and soon enough we'll be about 6 pages later. Yipnei Adonai ki yivha yishbot haaretz, yishbot hevel b'tzedek, v'yim v'mim monatot. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'odu l'zecher kodsho, mizmor shir Adonai. Yishbot hevel b'tzedek, v'yim b'meisharim. V'mamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu l'har kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu mizmor LeDavid. Lamabo yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech olam. Adonai hos yamo yitehin, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. We come back together on page 22 for Ana B'choach. Ana B'choach, B'choach, Gedulat yemincha, yemincha, Atatir tzurura, Kaberina amcha, Sagvenu tarinu nora. Baruch Shingvodo Malchuto Leolam Vahem. 23. Anybody have a melody for L'chaududi they want to pitch tonight? Going for only an $18 donation to the rabbi's discretionary fund. Likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela. L'chaudodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad ishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet ve'litila l'chadodi likra kahala B'nei Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat L'chu v'necha ki mekor haviracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava techila l'chadodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Mikdash melech Imelucha kumitzei mitocha hafecha harav lachshev be'emek habacha behu yachamol Allah yichemla lecha dohodi lihikra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela hitnari meyafarku mi livshi bigdei Tifartecha mihi al yad ben Yishai be'ed halachmi orva el nafshi ge'ala lecha dohodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela hitoreri kiva orech Kumi ori uri shihda beiri kavod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dohodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela lo tevoshi ולא תיקח מתי שוכחי, ומעטמי בך יחסו עניי עמי ונבנתה. עירתי לה לך דודי לקרא קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 25. והיו למשיסה שעושה יפרקו כל, מבלייך אסיסה לייך, אלוהי כמסוס חתן. הקהלה לך דודי לקרא קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי על יד איש, בהם פרצי ונשמחה, ונגילה לך דודי לקרא קהלה. Let's rise and welcome Shabbat. Bilah boi v'shalom, atzeret ba'ala gam b'simcha, u'v'tzahala toch emuneh, am segula boi chala lecha dodi likra kahala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. We may be seated. Shabbat shalom. Now that we're at Shabbat, let's sing the Shabbat psalm. We're on page 27. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Tov lehodot la'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid ba'boker chastecha, v'emunatcha ba'lelot. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. ותנופם בסבע, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיגי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולה תבוא. 29. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength, the earth stands firm. Bedotecha nemnu me'od, levedcha nava kodesh, nava kodesh Adonai, le'orech yamim. We have our mourner's Kaddish, the first of our two. And with your permission, I'd like to read the Yortzites for today. Beth Israel Congregation remembers the Yortzites of Jacob Bergman, Dora Rachel Berman, John Brensicki, Ethel Brody, Lawrence Epstein, Harry Eskin, Zelda Foster, Lawrence Geffen, Rabbi Leon Goldberger, Max Hafter, Chaya Harari, Herman Krotor, Sol Lerner, Pearl Miller, Alexandra Minnenberg, Ida Offenberg, Eliza Harari Palacios, Anna Reba, Marcus Scheiman, Morris Schindler, Mario Steingart, Pauline Schwartz, Irving Chevron, David Porter Siegel, Joseph Summers, and Jeanette Van Gelder. As we are continuing to say Kaddish for Sylvia Gordon, Isidore Fisher, Christine Reed, Harriet Celine, Frederick Reingold, Kevin Schiff, Seymour Konigsberg, Merle Goldman, Gwendolyn Shear, Sally Abelson, Gilbert Starosta, Yuval Warshai, Barbara Altman, Judith Elkin, Marion Sachs-Jacob, Ellen Neal Weiss, Leah Axelrod, Helena Rabinovitz, Barbara George, Howard Rubenstein, Alan Silverman, Otto Weidlinger, Irving Summers, Odette Osfeld, Irving Kaplan, Harvey Goldsmith, Muriel Gluckman, Daniel Goldstein, Eric Ostad, Evie Lichter. And we don't, do we not have your, and? Say it one more time. We'll have to add it after Shabbat. I'm sorry that happened. Warner's Kaddish, page 30. Yikadal v'yikadash shmei rabba, V'alma divrach kirute v'amlich malchute. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh. V'yithadar v'yitala v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran di'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav v'ya'aseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. We may be seated. Before we start the Mariv service, which will happen on 39A, I'm going to share a very, very, very short teaching. I don't get to teach tomorrow because we have we have a Devar Torah and a Devar Haftarah, and we have a Benot Mitzvah. So we have two fraternal twins doing their Benot Mitzvah together. So just very briefly, I spent a fair amount of time studying Korach, the Parsha for tomorrow. This is the first time I believe I've ever spoken about the Parsha on a Friday night. So I keep to a very strict tradition. It's not a halacha, but there's a very strict mystical tradition that one does not do Parshanut on Friday night. The Parshanut's only done in the morning because Friday night is only for love and chesed, and I almost always do a Devar Tefillah. I almost always talk about a line in a prayer because the prayers are love, and taking out the Torah is gevura. Taking out the Torah is pushing ourselves to be different than we are, to refine ourselves. And Friday night's supposed to be sort of utter self-acceptance and self-love. So forgive me, I'm going to try. But I had someone who came about 3 weeks ago. Amanda, it wasn't you, was it? Someone came about 3 weeks ago and they said, you could give a little Devar Torah on Friday night. Wouldn't hurt. I said, I don't do that. I don't hold by that. And they're like, well, it's a shame because I used to go to Friday night services because I like the rabbi giving me something to think about the Torah portion. So I'll try it tonight. We'll see how it goes. And it's going to be shorter than everything I just said. So here it goes. Korach is actually one of the hardest Torah portions for me. It's not short. It's the rebellion of Korach. It is part of the continuing saga of the very long book of Numbers, which really is fragmentation of the Jewish community, lack of working together, downright hostility among people, between people, certainly between the leadership. There's a sense in which the leadership of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, even they're at each other's throats. Certainly the people are at the throats of the leaders. And you would think Korach is the one parsha about that, but we've already just had about 4 parshiot about that, and we've got more upcoming. So it's really the whole book of Numbers. But here we really have an enormous amount of death and people wanting other people to die so that they can get their way, which I know speaks a lot to the increased fragmentation that we have today. But the thing that really struck me is how little hope there is in it, because there isn't one spot that I could find, and I read about 3 times this time. Moses seems to be he's pulling an Elijah, where he's forcing God basically to kill his enemies. He says things like, tomorrow God will kill all the people that God disagrees with. And then Moses says, so God, tomorrow morning, you know who to kill, right? Is it me or is it them? Which kind of puts God in the position of he pushes God into not really having choices. Elijah does the same thing. If there really is a God, this fire I'm going to pour water on the altar, but it'll turn to fire. So God, your turn, if there really is a God. So that's why he pulls an Elijah. So you have Moses prostrating his face to the ground, which you don't have a lot of prayer in the Torah. And there is a tradition that when one prostrates their head to the ground, that is an opportunity to plead for bad things to happen to one's enemies. The continuation of bowing to the ground today is in the Mincha service when we do Tachanun. And Tachanun, we put our hand on our shoulder, which is a tradition that goes all the way down to, it used to be bowing on the ground. And as you can see from stories in the Talmud, like Aknai's oven, which ends with someone wishing for death during Tachanun for the enemies, for their enemies, and then the ship goes down and the great rabbi is killed. So like their prayer works. So there's a tradition that actually if someone like Moses is bowing down to the ground, what they're actually doing is wishing for God to take revenge upon their enemies, which is actually what happens. And so it makes sense in the Parsha because that's exactly what happens. So Moses wishes for death on the people challenging him. Death happens in every possible way. The enemies are killed by chasm opening up. They're killed by fire. They're killed by plague. So basically what you have is going back and forth, people getting other people roped in to their hostility, anger, and wishing ill upon others. Korach gets other groups involved in his rebellion, and they're a very motley crew. So the one thing I would just wanted to say about it is that it reminds me that when one is in a system, like let's say a relationship, could be a marriage, or it could be another system, that there's no relief in this parsha. There's no kind of silver lining in it. It's very, if one introduces into these kind of covenantal relationships that we have, toxicity, anger, emotions of revenge, emotions, it's not revenge, but emotions of wishing ill on others, it is contagious. Like that's part of what it means to be in covenant is like a covenantal relationship or system is that you can kind of introduce love into it and sort of forgiveness happens. And you can change it. One person can change a system by introducing the right emotions, intentions, motivations in it. We see it at committee meetings, right? Things are going off the rails and just one person brings in just this wonderful attitude and then suddenly everything's back on track. And certainly marriages are like that. Like if one person starts going negative about something, oh, you know, the damn Democratic Party or the damn this or the damn Trumpians or the damn whatever, you know, or I don't know, your boss is so terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like it really does spread. Like the Torah doesn't have, God doesn't say to Moses, you're overreacting. You need to relax. God basically gets caught up in it. It's like, great. Is a plague good enough? Should I open up the ground and swallow them too? And it goes the other way too. In other parshiot, when God gets angry, for example, about the golden calf and things like that, Moses is like, absolutely, what do you want? I mean, I can make it even worse. I can double up on that. So there's that way in which when we're in those relationships, we really have to be like, this parsha reminds me of the power for negativity to really, to infect someone else with it, especially the people with whom we are the closest. And because if it can even happen with God, getting influenced by Moses, because God doesn't seem to ever say in this, I am so angry at those Korach people. I really need to do something. It's always like Moses saying, you really need to do something. They're awful. And God's like, absolutely. You know, what do you want to order up? That we have to be just really careful with the energy we introduce into our relationships because you would think that the other person would always be a check on us, but often the closer we are, they're not a check, they're an amplifier. So with that, let's keep going. Daven through Mariv. We're on page 39a. We'll skip the Baruch Hu because in person we're fewer than 10. And Danuta, I just want to say, you made the 10th, including our Zoom people. And so I'm just so happy to have you counting in the minyan for so many reasons. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro mariv haravim. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'eh baruch atah Adonai hamariv haravim. Page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu v'shachveinu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu v'yorech yamenu V'yorech yameinu Uvahem nege yomam v'layla. V'avadcha atasimer lo amim baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 41. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'hayu advarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, V'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam le'od al yadecha, v'hayu letotafod b'neinecha, uchtamtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'hishareh. Continue silently, 42 to 43. Malchuto b'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael lechan yusra b'simcha haraba v'yamru chulaham mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot osei fele Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed v'ne'emar ki vada Adonai Yaakov golum gazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. On page 45 we have the Hashkivenu. I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but let's read it tonight in Hebrew. If you don't know the Hebrew, you can try to do, there's actually a transliteration on the bottom left, but I usually do it in English. Let's try the Hebrew together. We'll go slow for those who are a little fresh at it. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chayim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, v'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha, V'hoshi'enu l'ma'an shemecha, v'hagen ba'adenu, v'haser me'alenu, oyev dever v'cherev v'ra'av v'yagon, v'haser satan milfanenu u'me'acharenu, uvtzel kenafecha tastirenu, ki el shomrenu u'matzilenu ata, ki el melech hanun v'rachum ata. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoaenu lechayim uleshalom me'ata v'ad olam. Ufros alenu sukat shlomecha, baruch ata Adonai, hapores sukat shalom alenu, v'kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי Shabbat vayinafash. Chatzi Kaddish will be followed by the silent Amidah. and you will find the insertion for Rosh Chodesh on page 50. So when you get to page 50, make sure you include the Rosh Chodesh paragraph. Please rise. Yikada v'yikada shemer Abba v'yamadi v'rakute v'lich malchute v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimeru amen. Yehi shmera b'mevarach alam ulal me'amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala al shmei d'kudesha le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiram v'yama v'yimeru. 47 and 4. '54. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabba b'yamadi rakute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechonu v'yimechonu v'chayedecho beit Yisrael b'agalav v'zman kari v'imeru yesh shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'lam me'amaya Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shmei d'kudesha le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tishbchata v'nechemata damiram b'yama v'imeru Ti kabal tzolot about Hond Israel, Kodama Hond Vishmaya v'imeru, Yesh Amarabba min Shmaya v'chayim alenu v'kol Yisrael v'imeru, Oseh Shalom b'mromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom alenu v'kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Alenu, page 56. Alenu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gidul ha'liotzer breshit, Shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol amonham, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים בסדר. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. Mourner's Kaddish, page 58 for those reciting. Yikadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah. Amen. V'alma divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv imru. Amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiram v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. Just a few quick announcements. Tomorrow morning is the joint bat mitzvah service of Emmy and Lucy Hakala. In addition, be aware that next Friday, July 12th, the Shabbat services will not be here. They will be at County Farm Park. And we try to do that once or twice a summer. And so we have that on the docket for next Friday night, July 12th, 6 o'clock. Bring your picnic and join us at County Farm Park to welcome Shabbat. And meals are available to pre-order. If you don't want to make your own, we bring them for you. If you pre-order, you can go through the website or Jerry or through the email that you've received. And then next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, is Ask the Rabbis. After Shabbat services on Saturday, Zachary Bernstein, who is toward the end of his training at JTS, as you already know him, and myself will be answering questions about actually it says about conservative Judaism, but any Ask the Rabbi questions you want. And you can see two rabbis disagree a lot on the answers if you want to come. So we'll see. Finally, I just want to say Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for those who are joining us on Zoom. Without you, we would not have had a minyan for a Kabbalat Shabbat. So thank you. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And before we completely exit, I'm going to